He's getting older.
That is totally absurd.
But not wiser.
Hello there.
This is the Lefty Show.
Welcome, everybody, to the Lefty Show. I am your host, Lefty. Glad to be here for episode number 42 on today, which is Tuesday, the 24th of June in the year of our spaghetti monster, 2014. Glad to be here. Hope to put on a great show for you today. Thank you all for watching, liking, favoriting, and subscribing on YouTube, youtube.com/LeftyOX. Helping the channel grow helps the show grow. Thank you to everybody that's been sharing the show with your friends, family, and co-workers. It's easier now to do that. Take the show with you wherever you go because we're mobile, baby. We got an RSS feed. Just go to leftyshow.podbean.com. That's leftyshow.podbean.com if you want to subscribe manually to the RSS feed, or if you're on Android, go to your podcasting app of choice, search The Lefty Show. I'm sure you'll find us there. We are definitely for sure on iTunes. Everybody go to iTunes right now, download it, and create an iTunes account or whatever, and go subscribe to The Lefty Show. Go to the iTunes store and search The Lefty Show, and you can subscribe to the feed there. As always, ratings are appreciated, as well as the delightful comments that you people tend to leave. I greatly appreciate that. So again, leftyshow.podbean.com, as well as The Lefty Show on iTunes and other Android based podcasting apps, and you can take the show with you wherever you go. And I think we got a good sound. I've downloaded a few episodes, listened to them on my iPod, and I think they sound pretty nice. I like it. So we've got pretty good sound quality. There's some other podcasts that I listen to, and honestly, I think we rival them. I rival. Well, you get the idea. And I think that's something that's impressive, I would say, for a middling podcast born from YouTube. You can also follow me on Twitter at Lefty643. Just go to twitter.com/Lefty643. Hit the follow button again at Lefty643. Stay up to date on all the Lefty Show news, my musings, in between episodes, gaming content. You want to hear about all the things going on in my head and all the things I'm working on, you can do that there. It's a great way to interact with me as well, at Lefty643. Let's see, what else did we get all the propers? Oh, thank you to everybody for donating. I'mRacing.com/643 Productions. I greatly appreciate all the donations. I'mRacing.com/643 Productions. Thank you to everybody that's been donating there as well, helping keep the show afloat. 42 episodes in. You know, I was out to dinner the other night. Out to get something to eat, having a few beers, and it's like a sports bar, it's more of a sports eatery than it is a sports bar. They've got a full kitchen and have a full menu, and sitting there, and I noticed that there were kids running around, and it's a place where, you know, after a ball game, after a little league game or youth baseball or basketball or whatever, people take their kids there. And it's a great place to also go catch a game. And if you just want to be, it's not always packed. So if you want to just have some quiet time and enjoy a cheap beer and cheap food, it's a great place to go. And I was there with my dad the other night, and there were kids running around. And I try to think of myself as not a curmudgeon-y old man. I am an old man, but I try not to be curmudgeon-y about it. And being as I do a lot of my thing on the internet, I can say with a certain amount of confidence, perhaps confidence born from ignorance, but confidence all the same, I can say, you know, I'm kind of hip. I'm kind of with it in terms of the culture of the younger people nowadays, the internet culture, the information age culture, the millennials. I'm not a millennial myself, but I interact and see a lot of them on a daily basis. So I have confidence in saying, yeah, I get it. I understand, and of course, just from a humanistic standpoint, I was a child once too. Not that long ago, as some other people, I was a child too. And I would play with my friends, and we would go places with other families and all the things in the between. But I say that, however, I was sitting there trying to get my buzz on, and there's children sitting at a table about 20 feet away with their family who get up and start running around, screaming, playing in the restaurant. And I know people are hyper protective of their kids, and that's equal parts. That's probably overall it's a good thing. I was going to say equal parts good, but no, I would say overall it's probably a good idea, a good mantra to be hyper protective of your kids. You want your kids to know that you are not going to let some asshole come and start belittling you to your parents. Your parents have your back. There is a hard line to that, but your parents have your back. And I think that's a good message to send to your children that you own, have. You kind of own them for a little bit. First 18 years, they're kind of yours. They're your responsibility and all that stuff. So knowing that, I wouldn't, unless it was an egregious thing, unless the child was coming over and directly interrupting my enjoyment of Miller Lite, or I don't know, some like a rotisserie chicken or something. Unless the child was doing that, I won't say a word. However, I will glare. I will glare with hate at your table, at your family, at your redneck mother and father. I will do that because it's a restaurant, not Chuck E. Cheese. It's not a park. Because I know some people are going to say, well, they're kids, they're playing. That's what kids do. No, kids play at a park. Kids play at Chuck E. Cheese. They don't play at a fucking restaurant where other upstanding adults may or may not be trying to get drunk. You don't bring your kids there as a good parent and let your kids run around, and even you don't even create the possibility for allowing your children's adventures to fuck with other people. You do that at Chuck E. Cheese, because I don't go to get drunk at Chuck E. Cheese. I don't even think they serve beer at Chuck E. Cheese, although maybe they should. There's no adults going to have a private conversation at Chuck E. Cheese. That's not happening. I'm not going to the park, to the jungle gym, to talk about business or talk about this or that. However, that will happen at restaurants. So control your children. Keep them on a short leash when you're in a public place that isn't geared towards children. When you're at a restaurant, however cheap the menu may be, control your fucking kids. Because, and I say this again because some people might get upset with me, and I say this not because, again, the children have really ever directly interrupted my enjoyment of whatever it is I was doing, my conversation, my meal, whatever. Never really happened, though I have heard stories of it happening. It's just been loud noises, whining and crying, screaming, running. Somebody trips and falls in front of the table and they skin a knee on the tile, and now they're, wah! And again, not a direct interruption necessarily, but motherfucker. But I say this because if parents do that enough, and I'm speaking to you because a lot of you are going to be parents someday, if you allow that enough, and if there are enough parents to allow that, to allow their children to run hog wild in public places, that's reinforcing the idea. And then when somebody says, hey, control your fucking kid, you say, all right, guys, it's a public place. It's a restaurant. My little Johnny and Debbie are just playing. When you back up your kids to that regard and don't teach them to show proper respect to people they don't know, and yes, you do owe a modicum of respect to somebody you don't know in a public place who's doing their own thing while you're trying to do your thing. When you don't do that, and if there are enough, and perhaps it's too late, Perhaps it's too late, but I think what you're doing is you're laying the foundation very early on in the child's age, or very early on in the child's life, that is. You're laying the foundation for that child to later on in life say, well, I do what I want. I can go here, do this. Fuck that. Fuck that and fuck you. I'm going to do what I want. I don't have to show respect. Respect you? Who are you? Why should I show you any kind of basic human decency? I know people are going to bring up troops. I mean, when I say respect, I mean basic human decency. The mutual respect we kind of all show each other in society. The base level of human respect. Allowing your children to run around hog wild and scream and yell while other grown-ups are trying to have conversations and get buzzed is not showing that respect. Control your little monkeys. Control them. Control your miniature shaved apes that you have. Or orangutans, whatever we are directly descended from. Control that. It's your job, parents, to control that, because when you don't, you're setting the stage for later on in that child's life. They're not going to say Mr. to people, to the parents of their friends. They're not going to respect the property or the whatever prestige, the office or the job, the authority of people. You know, Woody told a story about how he I do Painkiller already with Woody's Gamertag, and he told a story how he was at a graduation party, and the home of the graduating child had a friend, and they're all really into parkour, I believe it was. And they had a friend who just started climbing a tree and doing it really well because they're really into parkour. And I thought to myself, I put myself in that situation, and I said, if I was the homeowner, because again, think about it, this is a teenager going over to somebody else's property and just putting themselves in a dangerous, and yes, climbing trees is to some respects dangerous, climbing trees really well, which means you get really high up, 20, 30, 40 feet off the ground, and just doing it willy-nilly. And if I was the homeowner, I'd say, get the fuck down! What are you doing? And because that child was probably allowed to run around and do whatever it wants when it was a kid, that child would then come to me, what's your problem, man? I was just climbing a tree having some fun, bro. I say, you don't understand. Do you realize the risk that you just made me complicit in? I have to pay for your ass if you fall. That doesn't mean you will fall, but if you fall, I got to pay. Not you, not your parents, me. Now, you like me, right? Yeah. Dude, I like you, bro. No, mister, sir. You made me complicit now in all this risk, and I'm liable for your fuck-ups now. Get down off the damn tree. And that child, whoever, I'm guessing, in any respect, that child would say, well, what's your problem, man? Why you gotta... Because you don't have any base level respect for property ownership people. You just do what you do and expect everybody else to kowtow to whatever it is you're doing or saying. Everybody, I think everybody likes to say, and I've said this before, but I'd like to slightly retract it, that it's the everybody gets a trophy society that has resulted in entitlement. And, hey, man, you better listen to me because I'm special and what I have to say is special and I'm a special lotus flower and what I say goes and da-da-da-da-da. And while that's true, while I think it has created and instilled in a lot of children the idea that they are entitled to reward for their actions, I think the unwillingness of parents to actually parent their children and enact rules and enforce those rules and punish children, substantively punish their children, not you can't go out with your friends, stay inside and get on the fucking internet. No, I'm going to rip everything out of the fucking wall. I'm going to turn your bedroom into a jail cell for the next week. You get up at 6:30 in the morning to go to school, you come right home and whoop, back into the jail cell. The lack of anything like that that is, I think, one of the big underlying driving forces behind the idea of what I say goes, what I can do, what I want, because I'm son of, daughter of this. I am an independent human, so I can go climb the tree on the property and put myself in an incredible personal risk on the personal property of somebody else, and nobody's going to say a word to me, and other people have an issue if they say a word to me, because what the fuck, man? Why are you trying to infringe on my vibes here, bro? No. Have some respect. Show some respect to other people. Doesn't have necessarily, I was going to say elders, but it doesn't have to be older people. There's a fundamental lack of respect in younger people in our society, and I see that as a problem, because when I was growing up, it wasn't there. When I was growing up, I wasn't running around searching through drawers of people's houses trying to get food. I wouldn't just open the fucking refrigerator at my friend's house or just start going through their pantry looking for stuff. I would say, hey, can I get something to drink? I said, yeah. They said, okay, well, can you come with me to do it and show me where everything is? I wouldn't just go start looking for things. I wouldn't start just plugging things into the wall and charging my phone and be like, hey, can I do this? I wouldn't just go to the bathroom and say, hey, can I use your bathroom? When the father came home, it was, hello, Mr. Da-da-da. Hello, Mrs. Da-da-da. Thank you. Yes, sir. No, sir. Right away, sir. That was my childhood. And it wasn't out of fear. That wasn't instilled to me out of fear. It wasn't, you better address people with respect or you're going to be, you're going to get the belt again. My parents never hit me, never struck me, never even threatened to strike me. But my dad made a compelling case when I was very young. He said, look, you show people respect, they will treat you with respect. And if you treat, if you go to Mr. Da-da-da's house and you are respectful and polite and unassuming, that person will treat you as somebody on their level, not as a kid, not as a child, but they will see you as more of an adult than any other child. And that's good, because one day you are not going to be a child and you are going to need people to respect you on the level of an adult human being. So it's better now to get into that mode. That's not to say don't have fun. By all means, have fun, but ask first. Say, hey, can we go play? Can we go do this? Can I use the basketball hoop? Sure. Thank you very much. That's simple. Not just, we're going to go play basketball, man. Later. We're going to go play basketball, Todd. Peace out. Mr. No first names. Mr. That doesn't exist anymore today. Don't just do things, ask for it. That communicates, even if you don't have the respect for the person, that at least communicates respect. You are working towards being a normal, social, functioning human. Don't run around the restaurant because other people don't give a shit about you and your playtime. Save your playtime for the proper places. You go to Dave & Buster's, you go to Chuck E. Cheese, you go to the park, you go play baseball, then you dick around. Then you can go play grab ass with your friends and whatever it is you do. But when you're in a restaurant, you just sit. You sit politely. You ask for things. You make nice with the waitress, but you don't run around. You're not obnoxiously loud or obnoxiously loud and obscene. You try to have a good time, but not infringe on the other time of others in any way. But that doesn't exist anymore. I'll tell you a story. When I was, this was, I don't know, going on 4 years ago. I went to help out at a graduation party for a family friend. Somebody was graduating somewhere, I forget where. And they wanted help, just because I wasn't going to go there to drink with high school kids. They just, can you help out, refresh, make drinks for the adults, open bottles of wine, all that stuff. I said, sure, no problem. I got nothing going on. I'll go hang out and have a good time. And I went there, and I was going out into the garage to I think, get more beer. And I opened the door to the garage of this, wherever we were, wherever the party was, and I smelled pot. Now, I know the kid who lived there who was graduating. The person smoking pot, the people smoking pot, weren't that kid. And I said, what the fuck is going on? And I said, and I looked at him and said, do you realize what you're doing? They said, oh, just chill out, man. I said, no. Do you realize what you're doing here? Because when you get caught smoking pot here, you're not in trouble. It's the homeowners. People who don't know or care about you are liable now for your fuck-ups. And it was a completely foreign concept to these idiots. These supposedly people receiving some diploma from somewhere, going on to bigger and better things, college, the world, I don't even remember. We're like, hey, man, why can't we just smoke pot in somebody else's garage, bro? What's the big deal? Show these people fucking respect. They're opening their homes to you, and you respond to that by smoking pot, and they're smoking an illegal substance, which should be legal, but that's not the point here. You should show people proper, basic human respect, and that's gone, or it is fleeting in our society. And I believe that is in part because parents allow their children to run hog wild at restaurants, and then I look at me cross-eyed when I glare, when I say, hey, control your kids. Control that. That's yours. You need to control it. It's not society's obligation to raise your child or even kowtow and conform to your child. It's the other way around. Society, humanity, government, everything bigger than your child, bigger than you and your individualism. But in our, we've hands-off parents who look for, well, don't tell me how to raise my child. Well, I said, well, you're not even raising your child, so what the fuck? I can say anything. Don't tell me how to raise my child. Well, you're not doing it in the first place, so it doesn't really matter. Parents looking to, why in the fuck do there need to be parental guidelines for TV shows? Why do there need to be parental controls? Why is that an industry standard on Blu-ray players, on video game consoles? How about it's not Microsoft's job, it's not the job of the Federal Communications Commission to raise your child and to ensure that your child doesn't say or doesn't hear something or see something that you don't want it to. Parent your child. Raise your child. Give your child some rules. Don't just say, oh, Billy, you're a delicate little flower. You do what you want, and everybody else has to ensure that you're not offended and that your sensibilities are intact, remain intact and unmolested. Yes, it's everybody else's responsibility, but your own and but my own, to raise you. Why the fuck can't I go on a radio frequency and say fuck? Why can't I get a gig at some terrestrial radio station and go on there and do this show? This show couldn't swear, couldn't say shit, couldn't say fuck, couldn't talk about racial issues. Really? That would be walking the line. Why can't I do that? Well, because some people might hear and they might be offended. Well, that's their fucking problem, isn't it? Well, what about the children? Isn't that the parents' problem, not mine? You don't like it, turn it off. You don't want your kid to hear it, tell your kid, don't listen to that. And I'm going to punish you if you do, because that's a rule I set. Why does the FCC need to get involved in the creative process to ensure that somewhere down the line, little Billy Delicate Flower doesn't hear something that offends sensibilities? Why? That doesn't make any sense. Why is it Microsoft's job to ensure that the parents can put timers on video games? How long you can play video? Oh, we can only play 45 minutes. You can only play an hour. Just tell your kid, no, stop playing that fucking video game. When I was a kid growing up, I was 6 years old. 7 maybe. I was playing the original Nintendo, the NES, the Nintendo Entertainment System. It was the coolest thing I had ever laid my hands on. I was like, oh my God, this little box, I put these things in it, and I can have this little controller in my hands, and what I input on the controller changes on the screen. oh my God, this is the coolest thing. And my big game then for Kung Fu. Kung Fu was number one. Kung Fu was amazing. I loved that game. It was hard as shit because I was 7 years old and I didn't really have the motor functions to understand. I could probably go back now and kick. I don't know. Kung Fu was pretty damn hard. I was thinking I could go back now and probably kick the shit out of Kung Fu. But the second one was Punch-Out. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. Not Punch-Out 2 or whatever the other iterations was. This was the original when Mike Tyson was the biggest and baddest man on the planet. Punch-Out was branded with Mike Tyson. It was Mike Tyson's Punch-Out. And I was playing that, and I was, again, 7 years old, and I was a ward of my father at the time. And wherever it was set up, the gaming system was set up in the basement of the house I grew up in. And my dad called from the top of the stairs, hey, we got to go. Let's go. Get your shoes on. I've got someplace to be. You've got to come with. Because I was 7 years old and I'm not staying at home. And I just continued to play the game. It was probably, I want to finish this fight. I don't know who I was facing. I didn't make it far. Soda Popinski was as far as I got. I could not beat Soda Popinski for the life of me. But it was probably Piston Honda or something like that. That was one of my favorite fights. And my dad again called down a couple minutes later. Hey, get your shoes on. Turn the game off. We have to go. And again, I didn't do anything. And the third time, he didn't call. He didn't call down to me. He came downstairs. He didn't swear. He came downstairs, turned the game off, opened the game up, and took it out of the Nintendo system. He said, come with me. And I followed him out to the garage, and he put Mike Tyson's Punch-Out in a bench vise and smashed it with an 8-pound sledgehammer and broke it in half. And then he said, get your shoes on, we're going. Now, he didn't threaten me. I didn't fear for my life. That was punishment. There was a rule. I violated it repeatedly. I violated calm requests. And then there was punishment. And then I learned, oh, shit. Yeah, I should probably do that from now on. But would that happen today? No. Would I would smash a cell phone. Somebody going to do that? Put the phone down. We're at dinner. Put the phone down. No. We're at dinner. Put the phone down. And then just smash the fucking phone. Stop playing video games. You've had your hour. No, one more. Stop playing video games. All right. No more video games. The thing's fucking broken. But now parents just say, no, it's Microsoft's problem. No, it's the FCC's responsibility. It's somebody else's responsibility to either raise or conform to my child. That, coupled with everybody gets a trophy, will create, I think, a society where everybody thinks, you have to listen to what I say because I'm special and you must conform to me, and also I must be rewarded for that. And I see it all the time when people try to give criticism. I say, well, I think that's an invalid criticism. They say, what? Oh, my God, what are you talking about? You can't take criticism. I say, well, what makes you think criticism is a one-way street? Your criticism can be invalid. I thought that was a given. I didn't think people needed to be told, hey, your criticism can be kind of fucking stupid. Because what we see in that when somebody says, and that's why I came up with the not enough George Washington meme, is because somebody can criticize a work for anything they want. That's the nature of criticism. Say, wow, there's not enough George Washington here. I say, well, it's not about George Washington. You can't take criticism. What we see in that ridiculous, unreasonable, invalid criticisms and people's reaction to being told, I think that's invalid. What we're seeing is the embodiment of you need to listen to what I say. You need to heed my words, the criticism. And what's more, I am entitled to reward. Everybody gets a trophy, and the reward in the critical sense is change, or at least acquiescence. And too many times I've been approached with criticisms it's just silly. Somebody today said you need to change your intro because it's the same every time. And I'm saying, no, fucking course it is. That's the fucking point. Mother of God. Are you serious? And this person was like, probably inside, they're like, well, you can't take criticism. You should listen to what I say because what I say matters. No, criticism is fucking stupid. My criticisms of some things can, of course, be equally as fucking stupid. Just because you wrap something in criticism, or better yet, to take it away from the criticism sector, just because you utter a phrase does not mean everybody needs to stop what they're doing to hear it, conform to it, allow you to say it, and then acquiesce to whatever it is you say, demand, request, command, whatever. No. My opinion is this. Your opinion is fucking stupid. Yes, opinions can be dumb. Mommy and daddy were wrong. Oh, everybody has to listen. It's the marketplace of ideas. No. Your opinions can be fucking stupid. And that's just a fact. That is objective fact. It is objective reality that your subjective opinion can just be kind of dumb. Just dumb. But that's a completely alien notion to so many people because from very early on, they were, at least it was tangentially reinforced. It was positively reinforced that they can do what they want. Everybody else needs to have that. Everybody else needs to bend backwards. Everybody else needs to make special exception for Jimmy, Timmy, Debbie, Veronica. I don't even know if those names are used anymore. Everybody needs to conform to you because you're the special flower. You're the pride of my, or you're the gleam of my eye. You're my pride and joy. Everybody needs to bend to you. It's everybody else's responsibility to listen to what you have to say and to help me parent and raise you. And that's a problem. That's going to bite us in the ass as a society in a while, because I'm probably one of the last generations, even in my generation, and the kids I grew up with, I was the only one that was Mr. Yes or No, sir. I was one of the very few. I was one of the last ones, and I'm going to be 27 years old. Pretty much, probably many, many more people younger than I are just, hey, man, hey, Jim. What's going on, Jim? No, call me Mister, you son of a bitch. You're in my fucking house. Hey, Jim, I'm going to go climb the street. No, you're fucking not. Hey, man, we're at a party. I'm going to smoke pot. No, don't smoke pot. Don't get drunk at my house when you're underage. Do you understand what you're doing to me? Show a little fucking respect. So I plead with you. If you are going to have children, if you're going to raise children, yes, it's a good idea to make sure your child understands I've got your back. It's you and me together. However, I get to determine where that line gets drawn between me having your back and you being responsible and respectful. I've got your back, but I'm also going to discipline you when you do wrong because you can do wrong. But as of right now, there's a lot of people that that's not a value instilled upon them. They think, hey, man, I'm just doing what I do. No. Time to instill some rules. So I urge you, if you have children, when you get older, remember this podcast. On the 24th of June in 2014, remember this podcast, somebody telling you, make sure your child understands you have their back, but also don't be afraid to discipline them. Discipline and instilling at least base human respect is not a bad idea. Yes, it might. Your child won't be able to spread out and explore unfettered. Yes, of course. And unmolested. Well, unmolested is a good idea regardless. They won't be able to explore their world unfettered and just completely have a completely dynamic experience with life. Yes, but that's not the point in life. We are a society. We are a society of individuals, and it's your function as a parent to make sure your child can function in that society, and it's not society's job to conform and raise your child. All right, let's do some news. Yeah, we got a lot to talk about today. 15 years ago, we're going to talk a little intellectual property news. I like it. We're going to talk some more insecticides. Some interesting stuff came up today on insecticides and pesticides. Paid maternity leave. Breaking news: Barack Obama comes out in favor of paid maternity leave throughout the United States, and the judge who, Montana judge who. The 14-year-old rape case who got in a lot of heat is back in the news again, and there's a Penn State report governing the Jerry Sandusky investigation. It's the news of the left. Let's talk about it. President Obama in breaking news today. This is a quote from Obama. U.S. should join rest of industrialized countries and offer paid maternity leave, says Obama, or Obama. This is from the National Post. Dateline Washington. President Barack Obama said Monday that the United States should join the rest of the industrialized world and offer paid leave for mothers of newborns. Quote, many women can't even get a paid day off to give birth. Now, that's a pretty low bar, Obama said at the White House Summit on Working Families, that we should be able to take care of. The president is talking about paid maternity leave in the midst of an election campaign season, focused on in many respects on women voters, raising questions about how he would fund such a system. If France can figure this out, we can figure this out, Obama said. French women get 16 weeks of paid maternity leave, rising to 26 for the third child. The White House Summit on Working Families he hosted has been months in the making, with several regional events leading up to it featuring administration officials. The White House devoted all its star power to the event, and even a surprise appearance by a celebrity to echo Obama's criticism of, quote, madmen policies in today's workplace. Christina Hendricks, who plays single mom Joan on a television dramatization of a 1960s ad firm, said, in the 21st century, the only place for a story like Joan's should be on TV. I'm, as a person who's for the worker and the idea of paying a living wage and, very anti pure capitalism and profit, free market. I would side with workers in many, many cases. And championing the rights of workers, championing not even the rights, but the very idea that a full-time commitment should garner at the very least. And if you want to make the argument that this is entitlement, I don't know what to say, but I guess that, yeah, it is entitlement, but, a full-time commitment, whatever we determine full-time to be, whatever we as a society say full-time is, should garner a living wage, a livable wage. You should be able to live off of it. However, living wage, living employment, I wouldn't argue should include raising a child or bearing a child. And just like I would say to the woman who works at McDonald's, who's worked at McDonald's for 15 years and is crying about not being able to raise 3 fucking children, I'll say, well, look, you should get a livable wage, but you should also stop fucking. It's not you are entitled to a living wage, at least a livable wage for your full-time commitment. However, that living wage does not include 3 kids. And I would similarly say your employment in a corporation, unless it's specifically bargained for, your full-time commitment to a corporation, or to some business or government entity does not include paid maternity leave. Paid maternity leave. If you want to talk about maternity leave as a biological function, you can't fire somebody because they're going to have a child. I even have trepidations about that, but it's not as bad smelling. It's not as toxic to my sensibilities. However, the idea that women, of course, this is and I guess I would be remiss not to mention how incredibly sexist the idea of paid maternity a right to paid maternity leave. Well, my woman is having a child. Because if you're going to make the argument for maternity leave, brief aside, as I understand it, is it's not just the recovery from the birthing process. That is your child. And in the first weeks of your child's life, it is incredibly important for the parents to be there to instill and form bonds. The paternal and maternal bonds are formed in that period. And so it's not just, I need 16 weeks off or 8 weeks or 9 weeks off, whatever the standard is, to recover from the birthing process, even though recovering from birth, I can't, I don't even want to think about that. Oh, it sounds so painful. You go ahead. Just from that, I'd say, look, what do you want? 8 weeks? 9? Make it 10. You push that out of you. You take all the time you want. That's got to hurt. Do your exercises and get back to a different weight and, or whatever it is. But also they're making the argument, many proponents of maternity leave and indeed paid maternity leave say, well, it's important because we have to form a bond with our child. I say, okay, well then there should be paternity leave, right? Then I have a right to take time off to go form a bond with my newborn child, do I not? And if you're going to say, well, it should be paid, somehow you get a 10-week, 12-week, 16-week paid fucking vacation or paid time off. If you're a woman who has a child, well, I should get that too, right? Aren't we all equal? Isn't it our time, Mr. Hand? Aren't we all equal? Where's that? B-Man? Joan from Mad Men? Which, by the way, come out with a show once a fucking year and then you can talk, okay? I'm sick of 2.5 years off for Mad Men. I liked the show. I was into the show, and they're on their 4th season, but everybody's been talking about the show for a decade. What the fuck? But getting back to the right to maternity leave, not just the inherent sexism of focusing on maternity leave and not championing equally for paternity leave. Taking the time off, the right, they say I like to keep it in a sports metaphor. A lot of times whether it be baseball, football, basketball, when there's multiple people on the roster to play any one position. And when a starter goes down, if they're an aged veteran or somebody in the prime of their career, or it happens more frequently when somebody's on the downslope of their career, when somebody gets hurt, there's a lot of words spoken about losing your job to injury, as in you can't lose your job to injury. That's the mantra of many coaches in the NFL and Major League Baseball, and I believe the NHL too, is that when somebody's out for an extended period of time, even if their replacement comes in and is performing well, as a Chicagoan, I'm thinking of, when Jay Cutler goes out again, and oh God, who is the guy's name? Oh no. Oh God, it's gonna bother me. No, Todd Collins. Oh, son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. Son of a bitch. It's not Chad Henne or not Caleb Haney. Josh McCown. Thank you. Oh God. That's right, because a lot of people would call into sports radio, that Josh McNown. No, it's McCown. Josh McCown, just because Josh McCown is doing really well when Jay Cutler is out, Jay Cutler's still the starter. When Jay Cutler is able to play, Jay Cutler is the starter. You're not, and well, if you want to make the argument that was a silly move, however, the idea is the idea behind that is you cannot lose your job due to injury, due to something that you can't control. Well, never mind for the moment that women can not kind of control, but couples have some say. It's not a completely random chance thing whether they get pregnant. But setting that aside, due to something outside of your control, you cannot lose your job. And in the canon of professional sports, even though you're still picking up a game check, if you're not a starter, you've lost your job. You're just, it sucks. You got to go to the stadium or the ballpark or the arena every day, but you're not starting. You're not practicing your craft. You're not executing your craft. And I think that's a good mantra to have. Due to things outside of your control, you can't lose your job, because if we apply that to private industry or just employment in general, look, I fell down the stairs and I broke my leg. No, I wasn't drunk. It was just a ice on the stairs. I fell and I broke my leg. Well, you're out of a job. Fuck you. No. That would probably be a bad precedent to set. Bad leverage, or too much leverage to give to employers. Similarly, I don't think you should lose your job because you got pregnant. Just because I don't think you're entitled to raise children on the minimum living wage doesn't mean that you can't have children on a minimum wage. And larger than that, when just talking about any woman in the workforce, regardless of how much they're making, it doesn't make sense to say, well, you got pregnant later. See ya. That similarly is way too much leverage to give to employers. Then you are saying exactly you cannot be as valuable as your male counterparts. And I don't think that's established just by the very nature of women getting pregnant. So maternity leave, saying we'll give you the time off, go have your child, go form the bond, go recover, yes, and your job will be here when you come back. And if we're going to extend that right to maternity and paternity leave, and we have to defend it, and it has to be absolute, and we have to go after people as a society, that is, we have to go after employers and corporations and whatnot that try to skimp on that. Try to say, well, it just so happened that while you were out having your child and forming that bond, we were, due to the vagaries of the employment market, we have been forced to downsize in your field. And that downsize is a downsize of one. You. And we need to, that has to be protected. But I think it's too much to say, and a little bit of, it sounds really entitled to say, well, you get your time off, you get your maternity leave, but it has to be paid. It is though you are going to work. So employers now, you have to pay women who aren't working. And if finally somebody says, isn't that kind of sexist? And somebody says maternity leave, you have to pay women and men who are on maternity leave who aren't working. They're not doing their job. But you're paying them for what? For not doing their job. And they get 2 weeks of paid vacation. I think that's too much. That's really too much, because don't get fucking pregnant. If you don't want to go without a paycheck for 16 weeks, you'll get your time off and your job will be there when you get back, but you're responsible for you during that time period. What this signals to me, what the idea of paid maternity leave signals to me, regardless of the rest of the world doing it, is it's a gigantic entitlement program. Removing responsibility. Well, it's not my fault I got pregnant and I have to take maternity leave, so I'm going to go off and you have to pay me. Well, no, I have to give you maternity leave. That's reasonable. But saying because you got pregnant, I had nothing to do with you getting pregnant. You have much more control over you getting pregnant than anything else outside of the case of rape and incest. You have the most control of you getting pregnant, again, outside of rape, than anybody else here. Anybody else in this equation. Why is it now my job as your employer to pay you because you had a child? That doesn't make any sense. It's reasonable to give you the time off. It is unreasonable to expect me to pay you to not work because you had a child. Why would we do that? Why would we go that far into the hearts of employers? We're already saying you have to pay them a living wage, which I believe is reasonable and just. And we've already said you have to give them maternity and paternity leave. which I believe is reasonable and just. But to now say you have to give them maternity, paternity leave, and it has to be paid for that entire 12, 16 weeks, whatever it is, no, that is completely unreasonable. And would probably serve to disincentivize employers from hiring women. Now, from the view of an employer, assume the employer isn't a person, because I know when you think employer, you're probably thinking a rich white businessman in a suit, and it's easier to hate that as being racist, misogynist, sexist, whatever. No, think of a computer. And a computer gets a man, same position, same work ethic, same productivity while working, and all that shit, right? Same degree, same aptitude, same in everything, every possible way you could imagine, except biological gender. You've got a male and you've got a female. And this computer knows that the male isn't going to get pregnant and go off for 16 weeks and demand pay. The female is going to do that, or may do that. There's a certain probability assigned to the female getting pregnant and getting off and going off and demanding wages while on maternity leave. There's a definite probability to that. Well, just from expected returns in terms of productivity, you're paying out money, because if you employ them for a year and the woman gets pregnant in that year and the male doesn't, you're paying the same amount of money for the male versus the female. They get 16 weeks off of paid maternity leave. The guy doesn't. So you're getting more work out of the male whom you're paying the same amount that you would the female over the next year, or choose whatever time frame you want, and you're getting 16 fewer weeks of productivity. Figure a week on each end too, because people clock out when they've got an extended vacation coming up, and they have to get back into the swing of things when that vacation is up. So you get about 18 fewer weeks of productivity from the female who's going to get pregnant, but you still got to pay for that. That's going to disincentivize hiring women. It's not going to it's not going to raise the bar. It's going to lower the bar. It's going to force people who rightly don't want to pay people to not do work any more than they have to. If you don't want to pay somebody to not do work, you're going to find every single way you can now to not hire women. And then people are going to look, well, why are fewer women being hired? Well, because maybe you demand that, one, you get 16 weeks off when you get pregnant, and two, you get paid 16 weeks off when you get pregnant. Or we as a society think that's a glorious idea. Well, guess what? I don't want to fucking do that. So I'm not going to hire women. It's not like I'm going to hire a woman and she gets pregnant and I deny her leave and deny her paid leave. No, I'm just going to find a way to not do it. And it'll be slimy, it'll be scummy, and it'll be immoral, but that will be the response to an unreasonable request. Why do you get 16 weeks paid to not do work? You already get 2 weeks paid vacation, at least you're supposed to, but now we're getting paid maternity leave? Why is somebody's pregnancy now the responsibility of the employer? Unless the employer's fucking them, it's not. And it's unreasonable. It's too far. I believe I'm nothing if not a genius, of course. You know this listening to this show. Tongue firmly in cheek. Now, I don't profess to know specifically where the line between reasonable and unreasonable in terms of commitment of an employer-employee relationship, because I believe that the onus is on the employer to pay their full-time employees a livable wage. However, there's a line where that minimum wage or that minimum commitment from a monetary perspective, where that stops. We're going over that line. Well, no, that's too much. Too much, too far, too big, too strong, too fast. No. I don't know exactly where that line is, but I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts, and I would hope that many people see 16 weeks paid maternity leave as probably a little bit too far, a little bit unreasonable. Now, is it vicious? Again, some people say, well, you think women are being assholes? No. It's a simple thing. I'm not angry about it, but just, okay, well, that's unreasonable. I think that's unreasonable because it doesn't make any sense to involve the employer in the pregnancy of a female employee and say, well, you have to pay me to be unproductive for 16 weeks and the 2 weeks that you owe me by labor law. That's going pretty damn far. Shouldn't we have at least an honest discussion about this? And if there's a case to be had, I'll listen to it. But right now, the way it seems to me is it's disincentivizing the hiring of women. You're going to, or put differently, you're going to incentivize employers to find scummy, unseemly, perhaps a little bit illegal, but not that much illegal ways to not hire women. And also, so it's not going to affect the employment of females the way you think it might. And also, it doesn't make a lick of damn reasonable sense. Why the fuck is some woman getting pregnant? She's working in the bullpen of Procter & Gamble. Why is that Procter & Gamble's fault? Why do they have to foot the bill now for that 16 weeks of zero productivity? In fact, you could probably make the case it's 2 weeks of negative productivity. It's a little bit too far. Maternity leave, yes. Paid maternity leave, Let's get into a little bit of intellectual property law here. And 15 years ago today, this is from the Washington Post, Congress kept Mickey Mouse out of the public domain. Will they do it again? For most of history, a great character or song has passed from its original creator into the public domain. Shakespeare and Charles Dickens and Beethoven are long dead, but Macbeth, Oliver Twist, and the Fifth Symphony are part of our shared cultural heritage, free to be used or reinvented by anyone on the planet who is so inclined. But 15 years ago this Sunday, President Clinton signed the Sonny Bono Copyright Term Extension Act, which retroactively extended copyright protection. Thank God that tree found that bastard. As a result, the great creative output of the 20th century, from Superman to Gone with the Wind to Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, were locked down for an extra 20 years. It was a windfall to the families and corporations who owned these lucrative copyrights, but it meant these iconic works would be off limits to those who wanted to reuse or reinvent them without permission. And hundreds of thousands of lesser-known works aren't available at all because there's no cost-effective way to obtain permission to republish them. The copyright extension Clinton signed will expire in 5 years. Copyright holders like the Disney Corporation and the Gershwin estate have a strong incentive to try to extend copyright extension yet further into the future. But with the emergence of the internet as a political organizing tool, opponents of copyright extension will be much better prepared. The question for the coming legislative battle on copyright is who will prevail? Those who would profit from continuing to lock up the great works of the 20th century, or those who believe Bugs Bunny should be as freely available for reuse as Little Red Riding Hood. Now, I work a lot in intellectual property. The Lefty Show, the idea of the Lefty Show is, technically speaking, intellectual property. And what's more, the Lefty Show itself is more or less intellectual property. And I hold copyright over the Lefty Show. And over the images, over my voice, over what I say, over any dynamic bits, any brand new stuff that I come up with, that's technically speaking mine for as long as I live. It used to be, I believe, just 50 years from the initial creation. Then it was the lifetime of the inventor. Then it was the lifetime of the inventor plus 70 years. And I believe that was the most recent, the Sonny Bono Copyright Term Extension Act. But now it's up. And while I hold sway over the copyright of the Lefty Show, if I'm really, really good at podcasting, if I'm supposedly come up with some brand new thing that everybody enjoys, I have a right to profit from it. That is the whole idea of copyright. However, despite the initial purpose of copyright being to incentivize innovation and to say, please put up the money to innovate because we will protect you and your work, we the government will protect your work for as long as you live, or for 50 years, then for as long as you live, then for as long as you live, plus 50 years or 70 years or whatever. That's the incentive, the incentivization for your innovation. That's like the quid pro quo. That is the subsidizing of innovation is copyright. But doesn't it go too, it goes too far at a certain point where when the Disney Corporation, not Walt Disney, the Disney Corporation can still profit immensely and hold copyright over something that was drawn in the 1930s and profit and litigate and go after people who use Mickey Mouse or anything outside without proper licensing or anything like that. When's the last time Disney really innovated? Where's the next Mickey Mouse? Disney, where's it at? Where's the next? The guy that George Gershwin's Rhapsody in Blue, where's the next one? Where is it? Let's go. At some point, shouldn't you have to say, no, motherfucker, you're done profiting from something you did 50 fucking years ago. Do it again or shut the fuck up. You can't just hold on to this. You can't create a hit and then latch onto it and hold on to it and anything like it and injunct people and stop people from using your creation forever and ever. That goes against, if essentially extending copyright and enforcing copyright eventually goes against the very founding ideas of copyright law and why we as a society thought it was a good idea in the first place to extend protection to people that created things. Right? The cotton gin was a great idea, but Eli Whitney couldn't profit from it because there was no protection for his work, his original work, and people could just make their own, use it, and sell it, and fuck him. It's not your fault. You can't profit from, or it's wrong to not be able to profit from your original idea just because you don't have the other means to. But similarly, it's wrong to seclude yourself in your copyrights and never ever do anything again and then stop people from doing other things similar to what you're doing because you've been profiting from this for the last 70, 80 years. That's enough. We can't keep handcuffing ourselves and we can't keep allowing business interests, private business interests to handcuff our creative society. Adam Carolla is fighting a patent troll. We live in a society where, think about this. If I have a dynamite idea, right? Something, whatever it is, call it, I've got the greatest widget ever invented. It's completely new and it's mine and I can do with it whatever I please. And I hold copyright, trademark, patent protection, etc. The intellectual property, it's my idea. It's my copyright, and when I put it into work, it's my patent. And you can't do it. I get first dibs on building it, selling it, and licensing it out. In our society today, if I create a company around that widget, and we start making that widgets and turning them out, and then one day I want to gut the company, I can use that patent, not the widgets, not the actual physical product. I can leverage the idea itself, that protected idea, as an asset. And I can sell that asset. And I can sell that asset to a company, and I say, well, look, here's this asset. And this asset is an intellectual idea, a patent on a process, a patent on an idea, a patent on a drawing. Here you go. You can go now and start fucking with people as though it's yours, because it is yours. Now the idea, the protection exists independent of me. My patent isn't me. My patent is now property. My intellectual property protection is now not mine. It's just a thing that I own with which I can do whatever I want. And that doesn't make any sense to me. Because while I understand it's a good idea to protect people that do things, and it's kind of wrong to just not be able to profit from your original work because you don't have a manufacturer or a factory or a shipping logistics or anything like that. Okay, I get that, but what the fuck? What? Now I can sell it, and other people can try to injunct others and demand licensing fees? No, they didn't create it. I did. I don't want it anymore. I shouldn't be able to. It shouldn't still protect something after I sell it, because the original idea of the protection itself is so that I can profit from my original work, my original idea, and not leverage it as an asset. But that's our society now. And in the coming 5 years, there's going to be a lot of people well, Mickey Mouse is going to be in the public domain. Thankfully, courts over and over have ruled that Sherlock is in the public domain. It's gone. Done. No more protection for it. None. I can create a Sherlock show, and the people behind the Sherlock TV series or the movie series with Robert Downey Jr. can't say boo to me because they don't own it. They can't. Their use of it is not protected. It's not their protected idea anymore. It's society's. And hopefully it happens with Mickey Mouse. Hopefully Mickey Mouse becomes everybody's instead of the asset of Disney Corp bought from Walt Disney right before his death, or however the sale was effectuated. Because Disney Corporation didn't really own Mickey Mouse. I believe it was Walt Disney's first, and then it became Disney Corporation when Disney became a thing. And now Disney apparently makes sense to people to allow Disney to continue to profit from an idea that's 90 years old, or almost 90 years old. And say, yeah, it's protected. It's protected. We got to protect it. We can't allow them to not profit from it. Do it again, Disney. Just because you have a dynamite idea does not mean you have the right to profit from it and the right to keep others from profiting from it ad infinitum. No. That's contrary to the original founding ideals of copyright protection and intellectual property protection. So hopefully everybody comes down on Disney Corp and all the lobbyists and all the bullshit that's going to happen in Washington, and let's get Mickey Mouse in the public domain. I want to be able to play Rhapsody in Blue in the background of videos because I like it. And George Gershwin's dead, and he's been dead for a long time. Doesn't make any sense that his estate is allowed to profit carte blanche years after his death. All right, let's bring it home. Little fuck up there. Woo! Another great Lefty show. I thank you all for joining. Thank you all. I hope you had a great time listening. I had a great time putting on the show for you today. Thank you to everybody that's been watching, liking, favoriting, sharing, and subscribing on YouTube. YouTube.com/LeftyOX is where you can find the show on YouTube, as well as gaming content, blogs, all those kinds of things. Thank you to everybody that's been sharing the show with your friends, family, and co-workers. It's easier now because we've got an RSS feed. Just go to leftyshow.podbean.com, manually subscribe to the RSS feed there, or you can search your Android podcasting app of choice for The Lefty Show, or go to iTunes, baby. Big and bad, we're on iTunes. Go to the iTunes store and search The Lefty Show. Subscribe there. Be sure to rate the feed. I greatly appreciate it. Thank you to everybody that's been donating. I'mRaising.com/643 Productions. You can also follow me on Twitter at Lefty643. Anyway, guys, that's my time. I thank you for joining. I hope you enjoyed. I'll catch you next time. I'm out. Bye.
He's got AIDS.